Down by two. Down by two. Down by two. Now they're out of timeouts. Down by two. 1.3 left. Down two. Gets a shot off.
Down by two.
Well, would you looky here? Another episode of the Down by Two podcast. Brought to you by who? Brought to you by Crier Media. Visit crier.co for all things DB2 and sports-related content. And by our homies over at Indestructible. Visit Indestructible online and use promo code DOWN2, all one word, lowercase, for 15% off your next order. And by these guys over here, Yup Beer. Visit yupbeer.com to find a location near you. Bing. There it is. There it is. Now available in the beer store. Beer stores across Ontario. So here we go. Just going to have a little sippy poop.
Make sure it doesn't explode on you. I just had a little bit of an accident over here at the HQ. Just went all over my feet. Also, I forgot to get you that updated Indestructible logo. My bad.
All good, buddy. All good.
How was that? That was more than I was expecting.
It was, yeah. You know what? Fuck it. Why not?
Yeah,
it's just
Thursday.
a little post gym beer chug, right? You know, because you gotta work for your, you gotta a reward. You gotta work for your treats. You know, man, bro. Tell me, is this ever like? Do you notice this at the gym? Like, I just got back. If you can't tell, I'm fucking swole.
Yo, you're ripped, God.
Don't test me, bro. But I'm sitting here at the gym and I'm looking around to every fucking dude, bro, that is on a machine, and they are all like, I literally looked around, saw like 10 dudes just sitting there scrolling through TikTok and not using the machines.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just like everywhere, or am I just like fucking shitty London gyms?
No, I'd say that's like 75-80% of your gym time is just on the phone, and you're like actually there to exercise, and you're just like, okay, like I'm dude, can I use the machine? And they're like
I literally
was one more set, bruh.
I was just sitting there fuming watching this. Like, this guy didn't even do a set. He is just scrolling through TikTok, and I'm buzzed at this point. Like, I'm just like, I was gonna walk up to him and say, like,
you're buzzing.
There's so many other seats. Like, there's like the act machine over there looks really fucking comfy. Why don't you just go over there? Like, here I am trying to get swole and do steroids, and you're taking up the machine that I need, right? So
yeah, at least get me with the injection before you go on your way out. Like,
oh man, our boy Gil would be so disappointed with us.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's all natty, bro. Yeah, he's all natty,
pure natty. Man. But we digress. Man, big week for us here on the pad. Big week for us just when it comes to the show in general, because now we actually just got our brand new media passes to go cover, drumroll please, the Toronto Argonauts. That's right. We have coverage now for the CFL, and your boys are going to be live at the game this Sunday down over at BMO Field, where the Toronto Argonauts are facing the Ottawa Redblacks. Man, you know, one thing after another. We're making moves here. We got the media passes. We're gonna have all the coverage live for you there. Man, fucking stoked. Have you been to an Argos game
What's
before?
Next?
What's next?
No, I haven't.
It's going to
be a whole. It's going to be a whole new experience for me, just like the Indy was. It's a lot of fun, all these new experiences, and it's I'm not just a fan. I'm a fan and working for fun.
We're working.
Yeah.
Man, like have you been to BMO Field before?
No, not at all.
Dude, it's nice, man. It is. Yeah. It is sweet.
Well, you got to think like the main sports there, obviously, football, and like, I mean, some people would also call it football, but soccer.
Excuse me.
Not my first choice of sports naturally, so I just haven't been to a game. I always wanted to go to a TFC game.
Yo, TFC
and
looks
an
like
Argos
a
game.
riot, man.
But
yeah,
no, this is gonna be sick, man. I'm pumped.
this is gonna be great. We got some great coverage going down here. We also are gonna be covering it with our guests that we have on the show. Just not gonna say who, but it's someone from the network, so we're gonna be able to chop it up there as well. It's another incredible opportunity that we get here working with Crier Media. So shout out to Crier as well for hooking this up. But yeah, I mean, it's not the best matchup, and we'll be able to get into it as you know the first place Argos are facing the last place Redblacks in the East. So you know what, it's going to be great. We're looking forward to getting some good player interviews. We're going to be doing a couple bets. We're going to be doing the same sort of thing, the behind the scenes look. And if you were following any of our coverage that we did for the Honda Indy, look for about the same. We're ready to bring it to you and more. I mean, looking forward to the rest of the CFL season. I mean, we're going into week 10 here. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll be poised as well to go do some coverage down over at Grey Cup in the Hammer. We'll be in the heart of the Hammer for Grey Cup. Hopefully, if everything
that's the goal.
So that's the goal. That's the goal. So we're starting here, move our way down, maybe do another game to cover maybe October-ish, something like that. But yeah, I mean, all around, just another great opportunity that we have to be able to go dip our toes into a new league and actually be there and give you all the live coverage. So,
the fellas are doing stuff.
The fellows are doing stuff, yeah, and you know that's just what it is. So without further ado, why don't we just kick it over to our interview with our boy from Crier Media? If you don't believe me, just watch. All right, there it is. See, I told you we had a special guest, right? Good things come to those who wait. And very excited to have this dude on the show as well. We've had the chance to work with him in the past couple of weeks as well. And very, very stoked to bring him on the show. Host of the YWC Football Talk podcast and Crier Media's own Griff. Griff, my man, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for jumping on. And yeah, just an absolute pleasure and really excited for the week to come here.
When you give me a great intro like that, plus when I've got NFL preseason on the TV, soon to be CFL regular season, it's a win-win-win. Plus, like you said too, there's a couple beverages flowing as well, so it's just the best of multiple worlds right now.
That's how we roll, man. A couple wobbly pops and some sports props, and you know, sports on the tube as well. Everything's flowing. Man, yeah. Again, very stoked to have you on the show here. And I want to dig in a little bit as well about your background. Obviously, we both kind of came from different directions and you know, ended up in the same sort of spot here, working with Crier Media, having the opportunity to do live coverage at different events and different sporting events, if you may. So how did you get your start? Where did things kind of start off for you and eventually end up with Crier?
So the start was the podcast. You mentioned YWC Football Talk. A lot of people ask me too, where does the first part come from? And it stands for YouTube Wrestling Community, because on top of being a huge football fan, I've also been a really big wrestling fan ever since I was a kid. So it's kind of like combined the best of both worlds when I was looking for a name. And because around 2019, I would always listen to like football pods at work or in the car, you know, before remote work was a thing. And I would always debate myself on what they were talking about. Eventually I was like, you know what, let's put this on the internet for fun and see where it goes. And episode number 237 or 238 just dropped earlier today. So it's
congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Holy.
Yeah.
That's quite the accomplishment.
Yeah, I've made more friends on I made more friends that I talked to on there that I have never met in real life than people who I went to high school with or who I'm actively friends with that I see and talk with more often. And then from there, look, COVID happened, and then I started, as we all did, guiltily downloaded TikTok to kill time when we had nothing to do. Started posting on there, and then eventually I waited until 21 to post on Instagram because I was always one of those people where I wasn't sure. You know, you always want validation from others. You don't know what other people are going to think of you. Eventually, I ripped that Band-Aid off. I don't know if you guys love cursing or not, so I said, F it, just went for it.
No, fuck it. Say whatever the fuck you want.
So I said, fuck it, I'm going to post it. And then people like friends and family all were like, oh, this is hilarious, when it started with like some dances, the Freaky Friday thing that started in 2022, where every Friday it's the same audio, Little Dicky and Chris Brown. And then eventually it caught Dean Blundell's attention because a guy named Ray, who used to work for Crier, put it to Dean, got me in touch with Dean. I put a vision out we started doing that. And then about 2.5 months ago, I actually lost my real full-time job. Week later, Chris emails me, hey, do you want to work the Canadian Open? Absolutely, sure. Worked the Canadian Open, one of the greatest 4 days of my life. Then the following week, boom, I got put on the Argos beat. So I now cover the Toronto Argonauts for Crier Media, which we'll get into in a little bit later with the two of you.
Of course.
And then we work the Indy. I've gotten to go to Argos practice. And this past weekend, I was a mix of a fan and a media member at WWE SummerSlam. So I've gotten to experience the Ford Field press box, which is quite the space. And also, too, they have good food as well. So it's a win-win. I've basically worked every home game so far for Toronto except Halifax for obvious reasons. And then Sunday's their first home game in 6.5 weeks.
So we're amped to be able to go and do that, man. That's
it.
That's quite the background, man.
Hell
and you
of a
know
resume, man. Yes.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy. You don't know where it goes.
It's crazy how similar our paths are as well. Like you were describing all of that, and it's almost identical to how we got with Crier Media as well.
Because even the podcast originally came from just an idea to do with friends, and eventually I just said, hey, if it leads somewhere, great. If it doesn't lead somewhere, it is what it is. I like shooting the shit with friends for fun. And then I always said by the end, my deal was to get a brand deal by the end of this year. Like, hey, use code Griff if you want to get 20% off Manscaped or whatever. Or
exactly. Yeah, that's the goal.
But the Crier one's almost better in the sense of, I tweeted this at the beginning of July at the last Argos home game, that 3.5 years ago, I started a football podcast for fun. Now I cover a football team.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like where it's just these worlds come together, and it's an unbelievable story.
And that's just the dream. And Jesse and I were just talking about that too, where it's just like when we first started this show in the middle of COVID, and we're just like, let's just talk sports and have fun with it and see where it goes. And then 5 episodes in, we ended up landing Jack Armstrong on the show. So it's just like from there, you sort of surprise yourself at moments where it's just like, oh shit, like if we can accomplish that, then what more can we push for? And then we can set goals every year to try and get to certain viewership or listeners. And then, eventually get picked up by a network. And it's funny because when I first talked with Chris, because of my background in stand-up and doing comedy and touring with Yucks, they wanted me to come up and just write like comedic blogs and, have our podcast on for that. And I'm like, I mean, I can, but really what we're focused on here is our sports pod. And then he's just like, oh, well, you got to go talk to Ray then. And then that's when Ray brought things in and just made everything kind of happen from there. And it's honestly just working with the Dean Blundell Network, which is now Crier Media. It's really just catapulted things forward and given us amazing opportunities, like when we had the chance to go down and work the Honda Indy, and just like that backstage access that we had, and being able to work together as a team, and then just being there in the media room too. Like, dude, like this shit is bananas. And the coverage and the work that you did down there, like fucking primo, dude. Like, hats off to you. You really killed it there. So a lot of great a lot of fun events that are coming up too. Hopefully we might be able to go cover the Grey Cup as well. Next year I'll be doing the Canadian Open with you. I was actually supposed to do it with you this year, but different things happened, and I had to step away for a sec there. But with that being said, I mean, like, really excited. And anything else on the docket for you right now that we can look forward to catching you on in the next couple weeks, months, what have you?
So my football podcast, it's been I always do this where I go pretty much up until when the schedule comes out. Then I go quiet for about a couple of months where episodes will sporadically come out, because for one, you need a break from podcasting. For as much as I love doing it and love doing stuff like this, you need that time just to mentally reset and refocus, because I know a lot of people out there say, you got to grind 52 weeks a year. You can do that if you want, but at the same time too, if I was getting paid to grind it out like that, absolutely, that's the thing. But then the fact that it's a hobby, you don't want to ruin the hobby fun for you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so then that's starting to heat up. I've talked to you about this in the past, and I've always spitballed about this, but this year for NFL season, and NHL season, I plan on doing props that I'm going to be following along all week long. I say those two specifically because those are my two favorites. I've already got one that, if you follow me on Twitter yesterday, I tweeted out I really like the odds on a certain player to win MVP this year. So I think that's where my money's headed. But I don't want to give it away because I'll announce them probably closer to the start of the season. But
I like the way it smells. Yeah. Okay.
I got the Argos coming up. I actually today applied for CNE credentials as well, just to go in there because I just figured why not? That's the thing. Why not?
Yeah.
Because it's my favorite thing to say. You cannot hit a home run unless you swing the bat. You got to swing the bat because you may strike out, but at the same time too, you may hit a home run. I'm probably going to be doing Grey Cup. I already spoke to their communications people about that, so I'm like more than positive I will be at Tim Hortons Field in November as well. Which very interesting place to be. I'll be back there on Labor Day as well for the Argonauts Ticats Labor Day Classic.
Amazing.
Besides that, it's just pretty much Argos from here on out. And then when hockey season comes around, I'll be doing some stuff with that. And then probably even get into basketball as well. Hopefully Raptors, but at the same time, too, I already told Chris, I'll do stuff like the Toronto Marlies, like the Raptors 905, or even doing like, as I know, Josh, you live in a very hot OHL community. I'll go cover the OHL. I'll go to like Mississauga. I'll go to Guelph. Maybe even get out to London and do a game here or there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that's definitely on our docket too, to be able. I mean, like I'm already going to all the home games anyway, so it's like it's a 10-minute walk away. But it would be great to actually go there and work as opposed to just drink 12 beers. So that's
cheapest concessions, by the way, in all of Ontario. I went to a concert there about 4 years ago, Bud Gardens. Cheapest concessions I've ever seen at a venue.
It also is pretty cheap for us when knowing the liquor provider there too. So shout out Chris Arnold. Thank you for the tab.
There you go.
But I digress. Let's talk about this week. Let's talk about our marquee matchup. Let's talk about the game that we are going to cover with our media credentials going down to BMO Field, going into week 10 here. The Toronto Argonauts versus the Ottawa Redblacks. We got the first in the East against the worst in the East. Toronto Argos sitting at 6-1, Redblacks sitting at 3-5. Look, let's talk storylines here. What are we looking for when it comes to this game? Is it going to be a blowout? With the spreads, some books that are having it at -10.5 in the Argos' favor. It definitely leans more towards a bit of a blowout here. What are we looking for when it comes to Chad Kelly, Andrew Harris, and the rest of them? Is it going to be much of a competition?
So Chad Kelly was questionable because he hurt himself against Calgary last week. Ryan Dinwiddie today did confirm that he is going to be playing Sunday night because they do have a bye week next week as well. My big storyline is I predicted them. I put them at -7.5 because I started this late. So week 7 was my first ever Crier blog about like CFL betting because I was like, you know what? Now that I got to know more about the league, I feel like I can catch on to trends. Last week, I did sniff out the trap game just because there was multiple storylines.
Oh, where they took their first L. Yeah.
Argos were 6-0. They struggle in Calgary for some reason. A lot of the guys are from there, plus Coach Dinwiddie came from Calgary. And on top of that, the Stampeders hadn't won at home all year long. So a lot of people think, Toronto can go in there. But then it's like that thing where you just have to think logically about it. And hey, they're due for a win. So Calgary got the win. Toronto's suffering their first loss of the year. My big storyline is how does the defense bounce back? Because I know the offense got 7 points, but the defense allowed 21. And this has been a defense that's been very tame throughout the season, especially in recent weeks against Hamilton. They only allowed, I think it was like 15 or 16 points.
Yeah.
Saskatchewan, they only allowed like 11 or 12, I think it was. And then BC, they had a 6 interception game against Vernon Adams, a very hot BC team at the time. But that's my big storyline. And also, too, because and with Ottawa's side, Darren Crum, the quarterback wonder, who had a few good games, Hamilton wrote the playbook on how to stop him. He hasn't looked that good, so I want to see what kind of defense Toronto plays more than the offense, because I trust the offense. Like, I trust the receivers.
Well, they're the best ranked offense in the league right now. So we know that we can trust that for there to be some offensive fireworks.
Yeah.
But when it comes to defense, I mean, the Argos are 4th and the Redblacks are ranked 5th defense, which is they're both just above league average there. So do you see this being more offensive on both sides, or do you see that maybe being a grinded out sort of game here that we're looking at?
I don't want to say grind it out, but I can see at least each team putting up 20. I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be like a 45-41 like esque blowout. I think we're going to see like a 28-21 kind of game, or even like a 30-21, something like that 7 to 9 point range. I can see it being close to the first little bit, but then Toronto finds the gas and just doesn't look back. I can see that very well happening. But at the same time, too, Ottawa's defense has been holding teams to pretty good standards. Like even the game against Hamilton, that was a very low-scoring game. Last week when they played Saskatchewan, they had to fight tooth and nail, and coaching ended up costing them on a very late field goal. A game I might add that who is a guy who goes to Michigan and bets on the CFL at the sports book, but me.
Yeah. You're getting that in right before you drive over the border, just for the location thing that they got going on, and they can't actually place it in Detroit.
I went to the actual casino downtown Detroit. Went to the Barstool Sportsbook at the Greektown Casino.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's gangster.
Dude, you're a true fucking degenerate, just like us. I fucking love it.
Yeah. So, and then even because my friends were like, "Oh, you don't have the apps," and I was basically explaining to them how it's like, no, like literally, if I was on that side of the river, the apps would be working no problem. The fact I'm on this side of the river, I'm SOL. I gotta go to it. I also have baseball, but I got a little greedy on my bet, and then I ended up costing. So I went 2 for 3 there. But the parlay last week was Montreal beat Hamilton because I knew that was easy money with Mitchell re-hurting himself. And then Saskatchewan, who was an underdog actually against Ottawa last week too. So that's the thing that really intrigued me. One of the point I want to make just with Saskatchewan quickly. Mm-hmm. If you're an over person, bet that over tomorrow night. I don't know who's going to win, but Saskatchewan, Montreal, I think it's sitting at like 45 or 46 right now. Just take it. Both teams can put up offense.
There's a freebie right there for you.
It's a Friday freebie.
Friday freebie. Look at that. Wow. I mean, like we never like to say free money or use the L word, but I mean, I'm going to take your word for it. And I'm going to throw sprinkle a couple bucks on that. And just to note, like when it comes to it being more of a high scoring game, I mean, the Argos are averaging 32 points a game. And the Redblacks are averaging 22. So without further ado, why don't we get into a couple of our picks here and break it down for our listeners and viewers here. And it's DB2 Bets brought to you by BetStamp. Make sure you download the BetStamp app and follow along with all of our picks to make sure that we're keeping tabs on our receipts. Yes. We went 2 for 3 last week. No thanks to me and my fucking horrible take on the Blue Jays. They actually took care of business there in Boston, which I'm happy about. I'm glad.
Hey, yeah. That's one of those ones where you lose and you're like, okay, it's not.
You're hedging your bets with you're hedging your heart and your mind. So there you go. But we're gonna bring in our first pick here. We got a couple for you, and we're actually gonna start off with the Argos at -4.5. The best bets or the best odds are found on BetMGM, and this is key. This is why you use the BetStamp app, is because BetMGM had it at -4.5. Other books had it at -7.5, but the majority of them have it at -10.5. So that's a 10-point spread that like it could be they could win by 10, and then that 0.5 absolutely screws you. And then so you could have obviously gone in the favor of the Redblacks to go +10.5, but that's like that would be a horrible beat. So being able to go on the BetStamp app, we found that the best odds were at -4.5 on BetMGM. This is your huge difference. Huge. Griff, this is your pick. Tell us why we're doing this here.
Okay, so we're doing I personally, my blog for Crier this week, I wrote 7.5 because that 10.5, that's way too risky for me. I feel like they can win by it, but at the same time too, you're holding on by a thread. I trust them to win by a touchdown, but if you want to take it safe, you go to the 4.5 because look, that this isn't going to probably be a field goal game. You know that the Argonaut defense is going to come alive. Look, they have one of the more, in my opinion, underrated secondaries in the CFL. You got guys like Royce Mechie back there. You got Robinson Daniel, guys like Jamal Peters, guys who a certain person on this podcast has spoken to all three of them. Cheap plug, I'm sorry.
No, absolutely, dude. I mean, some of the coverage that you have is incredible, and we're excited to be able to witness some of that. So,
and even still, you have Wynton McManus anchoring the linebacker line. The offensive line starting to get healthy. Linebacking core starting to get healthier as well. So they're getting healthy at the right time. And like we were saying earlier too, with the over, this is a team that allowed a lot of points last week and didn't score any points this week. So like I said. And even in the event of Chad Kelly being hurt, I do trust Cameron Dukes to come in. He's come in QB sneak situations before, but I've seen him in practice throw it. So if worst case scenario, Chad gets banged up again, I do trust Dukes to come in and help get the job done. And like I said too, Crum was the Cinderella story. He had 2 good games against Calgary and against Winnipeg, but I just don't. I think his time's kind of up where they realize, hey, if we stop him from running, we will beat him. So like I said too, the Argos, they call it clubbed up when they get a win, and I hope that Sunday. I'm not even say hope. I think you guys are going to experience clubbed up on Sunday night.
That would be great. I mean, look, for me, and this is something that I want to ask you here, is that I'm doing a bit of research here on the Redblacks. What do you think we're going to see more of? Are we going to be exploiting their run defense when it comes to Andrew Harris, or are we going to put it in the air a little bit more for guys like Gittins?
I think you're going to see guys like Gittins get it. The other one, too, is Dejon Brissett. He's a guy I think we'll see more playing time, especially since Tavares Daniels is actually, you know what? This is a cheap plug, but I get sent the injury reports every day from practice. So if you give me a second to look that up there, the one and only shout out Chris Bolanovich. He's the guy responsible for getting the pass.
Right.
So for today, let's see, wide receiver.
Because Curly Gittins is their wide receiver one.
Yes.
So I mean, like that's going to be the main option.
So Daniels did practice, but DeMonte Coxey didn't practice. That's something to watch out for. So if you want to look for an Argonaut that's kind of underrated to have a big game, go for a guy like Dejon Brissett. He had an amazing catch against Calgary, and even still against Hamilton. But then Curly's someone who was hurt at the beginning of the year. He's finally getting going, and he's finally getting in rhythm. Like I said too, like. The coach did what he wanted to plug and play Curly. His main objective was to get Curly involved in the offense, and that's what he's doing. And the other guy, too, you can't rule out. I know you like to say Andrew Harris, but AJ Ouellette is a bowling ball out there. He just goes in. He will run you down. He looks like the meanest motherfucker you see out there. I've seen him just – like, he has that look on his face where he looks like if you approach him, he's going to, like, just be like
to run you the fuck over. Yeah.
Well, like with his eyes, like he's going to stare through your soul.
Fucking laser beams.
Yeah. But in all honesty, all these guys are very nice and very approachable. And I think with Ottawa, though, we got to explore more of the pass defense than the run defense because they're going to expect the run. But if Chad gets going, the pass game is lethal. I saw it firsthand against Hamilton. That's the thing. Like Curly was balling in that game. Brissett was balling in that game. Tavares Daniels. They were just like, if Chad gets going, it's a watch out moment. And even still, the other very underrated part about this team is Javon Leake running the ball. 2 weeks ago against Halifax, I made a bet because they had a pick six called back against Hamilton, plus 270 of a defensive or special teams touchdown. It hit in the first quarter. So Javon Leake went in space. You give him space, he's going to find the end zone.
Yeah. Absolutely. I definitely agree, man. And, I think 4.5 here is a steal. So being able to take that as opposed to something like 10.5, even 10.5, I know that we're pretty confident that would hit. But you're going to take 4.5 on the spread as well. So make sure you lock that in. Again, best odds out there are on BetMGM. And then we're going to go over to my pick over here as well. This is something we were chatting about earlier today. We're going to go over 41.5 points. Best odds again are on BetMGM. You were saying that you saw the over at 44.5 or 46.5, something around there. Anyways, 41.5, 46. So 41.5, obviously saving you some points there. I've seen some books have it at 48. So I mean, that's kind of tough to go whether or not you go over or under on that, but 41.5, feel pretty confident about that. Again, like I mentioned, look, the Argos average about 32 points a game, and the Redblacks average about 22 a game. So, I mean, if that is, any sort of telltale sign, I think the over is something that we definitely are going to, throw a couple bucks down on as well. And I mean, look, I mean, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't take that over. Do you agree?
That's just it. The over of the Argos hasn't hit, I think, in
last week.
Besides that, it's pretty much hit every single game that they have played.
I was looking back and I was looking at the track record. It was just that the one loss they had last week. So I mean, you got to be able to trust it, So So again, when it comes to the over 41.5 best odds that we found out there, we're on BetMGM. One more time, Griff from Crier Media and YWC Football Talk, my man. So stoked to be working with you again this weekend, man. It's going to be a time. It's going to be a time. So if you're at the game, look out for us. We're going to be out there. We're going to be out and about, shaking hands and kissing babies' foreheads. It's going to be great. But yeah, other than that, make sure you like, share, subscribe, all the rest. Thank you so much again, one more time for Griff jumping on the show. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday, my man. And for the rest of you guys, see you next week as well. Cheers.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.